The boy appeared alone at the auction, wearing simple clothes, asking only for a horse that no one wanted. When he approached the animal and whispered something into its ear, the horse reacted in a way no one expected. The adults looked at each other. Some stepped back, and when they realized who the horse truly recognized, their hands began to tremble and the entire auction fell into absolute silence. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment from which part of the world you're watching, because now I'm going to tell you everything. The big building was loud. The air smelled like dust and animals. A man's voice yelled numbers over a speaker. "Do you see the horses, Jake?" Aunt Sarah asked. She held his small hand tight. Jake Miller did not answer. His blue eyes looked at the animals in the pens. He was 3 years old. He did not talk much, not since his mommy went away. They walked past many horses, brown ones, white ones, spotted ones. Jake looked at them all. Then he stopped. His hand slipped from Sarah's. "Jake, hold my hand, please." But Jake was walking away. He walked toward a pen at the very end. A big black horse stood alone inside. The horse's head was down. His sides had old marks. He did not look at the people. He looked at the wall. A sign on the pen said, "Midnight, 5 years old, no guarantee." Sarah caught up to Jake. She put her hands on her knees to look at him. "Honey, that one looks sad. Let's look at the nicer ones." Jake pointed one small finger. "That one." His voice was so quiet Sarah almost did not hear it over the auction noise. "What did you say, buddy?" "That one," Jake said again. He did not look away from the black horse. The horse lifted its head. It looked at the little boy. Its eyes were dark and seemed tired. The horse blew air from its nose. Against her better sense, Sarah walked with Jake closer to the pen. The horse took a step back. It made a low, unhappy sound. "See, he's not friendly, Jake. He's scared." Jake stood by the metal rails. He was so small next to the big pen. The auction was getting ready to sell the black horse. The man on the speaker started talking. "Next up is lot number 21, black quarter horse gelding, needs experienced handler. Do I have an opening bid?" Nobody in the crowd said anything. People shook their heads. The horse Midnight pinned his ears back. He looked angry. Sarah started to turn away. "Come on, sweetie, let's go get a cookie." But Jake was not listening. He saw a gap in the rails, a place where the gate did not close all the way. Before Sarah could stop him, he slipped through. "Jake!" Sarah's heart jumped into her throat. She grabbed for him, but his little body was already inside the pen. The crowd near them gasped. A woman said, "Oh my goodness, get that child out!" Midnight turned his big body. He saw the small boy standing in the straw. The horse made a loud snort and stomped one heavy foot. Sarah froze, afraid to shout, afraid to move. Jake did not run. He looked up at the big black horse. He was not afraid. He took one small step forward, then another. Midnight stopped stomping. He lowered his head. He looked right at Jake. Jake walked right up to him. He lifted his small hand. He put it on the horse's long, dusty nose. The whole auction fell quiet. The man on the speaker stopped talking. Jake stood on his tiptoes. The horse bent its head down. Jake put his mouth close to the horse's ear. He whispered something. No one could hear the words. They were a secret. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Midnight closed his eyes. He let out a long, soft breath. He lowered his head more and gently nudged Jake's tiny hand with his nose. It was a soft touch, a friendly touch. A whisper went through the crowd. Sarah could not believe it. The angry, sad horse was now calm. He was nuzzling her nephew's hand like a puppy. "Do I have a bid for this horse?" the auction man said again, his voice much quieter. Sarah's mind raced. She did not have money for a horse. The ranch was struggling. It was a crazy idea. But she looked at Jake. He was smiling. It was a real smile, the first one she had seen in months. He was whispering to the horse again. She thought of her sister, Lily. Lily would have done the crazy thing. Sarah's hand shot into the air. $100, she said, her voice clear and strong. No one else raised a hand. No one else wanted this horse. Not anymore. "Sold for $100 to the lady in the green shirt." Sarah walked into the pen on shaky legs. She slowly went to Jake and put a hand on his shoulder. The big black horse watched her but did not move away. "He's our horse now?" Jake asked, his hand still on Midnight's nose. "He's our horse now," Sarah said. She did not know how she would feed him or where he would sleep. All she knew was the look on her nephew's face. It looked like he had found something he thought was lost forever. She took Jake's hand. Together, they led Midnight out of the pen. The horse followed the little boy step for step, his head low and calm. He did not look at the wall anymore. He watched Jake. The old truck bounced down the long dirt road to the ranch. In the back, Midnight stood steady, his dark eyes watching the small boy in the cab. Sarah Miller kept glancing in the mirror. "He's still standing fine," she said, more to herself than to Jake. Jake was on his knees on the seat, looking out the back window. "He likes the wind," Jake said. They pulled up to the house. It was a modest wooden home with a big porch. The barn behind it needed new paint. Sarah turned off the engine and sat for a moment. What had she done? She had a mountain of bills, a ranch to run alone, and now a horse that had been nothing but trouble for everyone else. "Can he see my room?" Jake asked. "His new home is the barn, honey. Come on." Sarah got out and lowered the back of the trailer. Midnight walked down the ramp carefully. He looked around, his ears moving forward and back. He sniffed the air. Jake ran right up to him. "This is home," the little boy said, patting the horse's leg. Sarah held her breath, waiting for the horse to spook or jerk away. But Midnight just lowered his head and touched Jake's hair with his nose. "Let's get him settled," Sarah said. She led the horse to the small barn. There was a clean stall with fresh hay and water. Midnight walked in. He did not seem nervous. He looked at Jake, who stood in the doorway. "I will get your toys," Jake said, and ran back toward the house. Sarah leaned on the stall door. She looked at the horse. "I don't know what happened back there at the auction," she said quietly. "But you be good to him, you hear? He's been through enough." As if he understood, Midnight looked at her. Then he bent his head and began to eat the hay. The next days fell into a new rhythm. Sarah's rhythm was all work and worry. She got up before the sun. She made breakfast. She fed the few chickens they had. She checked the fences. The fences always needed fixing. Jake's rhythm became all about Midnight. Every morning after eating his cereal, Jake would go to the barn. Sarah would watch from the kitchen window. "Good morning, Midnight," she heard Jake say one day. His voice was clearer when he talked to the horse. "Did you sleep?" The horse would make a soft sound. Sarah would go out to do her chores. She talked to herself as she worked. "The post on the south fence is loose. Need to get feed from town on Friday. The truck is making a funny noise." It was a list of worries. One afternoon, she was hammering a nail into a fence post. Her hand was sore. She saw Jake leading Midnight by a rope from his halter. The horse walked so slowly, his big head right next to the little boy's shoulder. "Where are you two going?" Sarah called. "For a walk," Jake said. "He wants to see the big tree." Sarah watched them go. The horse followed the child like a giant black shadow. He was never more than 2 steps away. She had not seen the horse act angry or sad since the auction. He was calm. He was watchful. It was a help in a way. With Midnight, Jake was happy and busy. Sarah could work longer without worry, but it was also strange. One evening after she put Jake to bed, she went to the barn to check on the horse. Midnight was standing in his stall, looking out at the darkening pasture. "You're a puzzle," Sarah said, filling his water bucket. "Everyone said you were mean. They said you were broken." She looked at his face in the dim light. "What did he say to you? What did my nephew whisper that fixed you?" The horse looked at her, then back toward the house where Jake slept. Sarah felt a familiar ache in her chest. It was the ache for her sister Lily. She missed Lily's laugh. She missed her advice. She felt alone with all this work, all this silence from Jake, and now this mysterious horse. "I'm trying, Lily," she whispered to the quiet barn. "I'm trying to give him a good life, but I am so tired." The next day, a Saturday, Sarah was in the garden pulling weeds. Jake sat in the dirt near the barn door, drawing with colored chalk. Midnight was tied to a post nearby, dozing in the sun. Sarah heard a sound. It was a tune, a humming. She stopped pulling weeds and listened. Jake was humming. It was a sweet, sad melody she had never heard before. It was not a song from the radio. It was not a song she had sung to him. A cold feeling went down Sarah's back. She stood up and walked over to him. "Jake, what song is that?" Jake kept drawing. He was making blue swirls on the ground. "It's the nice song," he said. "Who taught you that nice song?" The little boy shrugged. "I just know it." He kept humming. Sarah looked at Midnight. The horse was no longer dozing. His head was up, his ears pitched forward. He was perfectly still, listening to the boy hum. He looked like a statue. "Does Midnight like the song?" Sarah asked, her voice soft. Jake nodded, not looking up from his blue swirls. "He likes it a lot. It makes him remember." "Remember what?" "Just remember," Jake said. Sarah looked from her nephew's blonde head to the majestic still horse. The sun was warm, but she felt a shiver. Something was happening here. Something she could not see. The horse that no one wanted and the little boy who rarely spoke were sharing something. A secret. A memory that did not belong to either of them but felt like it belonged to both. She went back to her weeding, but her hands were unsteady. She kept glancing over at them. Jake was now talking to Midnight, telling him a story about a rabbit he saw. The horse's head was bent down, listening. For the first time, Sarah's tired mind did not just see a boy and a horse. She saw a connection, a deep, quiet bridge between them, and she did not know where it led. The humming did not stop. It became part of the ranch's new sound, like the wind in the grass or the chickens clucking. Jake hummed the melody while he played, while he ate, and always when he was with Midnight. Sarah tried to ignore the cold feeling it gave her. She was too busy. The list in her head was long: fix the leak in the barn roof, order grain, pay the electric bill. But the strange tune followed her, a ghost in the daylight. One rainy afternoon, Jake could not go outside. He sat at the kitchen table with a big pad of paper and a box of crayons. Sarah was at the counter, writing out checks for bills. The sound of the rain on the roof was loud. She heard the crayon moving. A slow, steady scratch, scratch, scratch. "What are you drawing, honey?" she asked without looking up. "A place," Jake said. "What place?" "A pretty place." Sarah finished a check and looked over. Jake was focused, his small tongue poking out between his lips. He was using a blue crayon. He colored in big, sweeping circles on the paper. He used green at the bottom. "Is that the sky and grass?" Sarah asked, walking over. "No," Jake said. He pointed to the green. "This is the ground." He pointed to the blue. "This is all the flowers." Sarah leaned closer. The blue was not a sky at the top of the page. It was a field, a huge field of blue covering most of the paper. In the middle of the blue, he had drawn a small stick figure with yellow hair. "Is that you?" Sarah asked, her voice tight. Jake nodded. He reached for a black crayon. Very carefully, he drew a large, four-legged shape next to the stick figure. "And this is Midnight." Sarah's hand went to the silver locket around her neck. She twisted it on its chain. "Where is this place, Jake? Did you see it in a book?" "No." "On TV?" "No. It's in Midnight's head." Sarah looked out the window toward the barn. The horse was in his stall, out of the rain. "How do you know what's in Midnight's head?" Jake shrugged, as if the answer was simple. "He thinks about it. It makes him quiet. It makes him happy." Sarah picked up the drawing. The blue was so vibrant, so full. A field of blue flowers. A specific, vivid image from a 3-year-old who had never, to her knowledge, seen such a thing. Later, when Jake was taking a nap, Sarah went to the barn. Midnight was eating hay. He stopped when she entered and looked at her. She held up the drawing. "Do you know this?" she asked the horse. Midnight's ears twitched. He took a step closer to the stall door. He stretched his neck out and sniffed the paper. Then he let out a deep, slow breath. He did not move away. He stood perfectly still, his nose near the blue crayon, his eyes half closed. It was the same stillness from when Jake hummed the song. Sarah's mind raced. Pieces began to click together, pieces that did not make sense. The song she never taught him, the drawing of a place he had never been, the broken horse that only this little boy could calm. She thought of her sister, Lily. A memory surfaced, sharp and clear. It was from many years ago. She was a teenager, visiting Lily at her first apartment. Lily was humming while she painted a wall. It was a sweet, sad melody. It was the same melody Jake hummed. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. She looked from the drawing to the horse. "You knew her," she whispered, "didn't you?" Midnight blinked his big, dark eyes. He nudged the paper with his nose again, a gentle push. That evening, after Jake was in bed, Sarah went to the old trunk in her bedroom. It was where she kept things from Lily. She had not opened it in a long time. It hurt too much. She lifted the heavy lid. The smell of old paper and memories came out. There were photo albums, some books, a few pieces of jewelry. Her hands trembled as she lifted a large, flat book. It was Lily's sketchbook from her art class in high school. Sarah sat on the floor and opened it. She turned past drawings of trees and buildings. Then she stopped. On one page was a painting. It was a watercolor. It showed a wide, open field under a big sky. The field was covered in thousands of tiny, delicate blue flowers. In the corner, in Lily's flowing handwriting, it said, "The lupines at Johnson's farm. My happy place." Sarah dropped the sketchbook. She put her head in her hands. The same blue flowers, the same field. Jake had never seen this book. Sarah had never shown him. She had never even described it. But midnight had been there. She stood up and walked to Jake's room. He was asleep, his blonde curls on the pillow. She then went to the window and looked at the dark barn. "What are you?" she whispered into the night. "And what did my sister leave with you?" The sketchbook lay open on the kitchen table for 3 days. Sarah would walk past it, her eyes catching on the painting of the blue flowers. She felt like she was standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down at water she could not see the bottom of. She needed to know more. On Friday morning, she dropped Jake at her friend Mary's house for a play date. "You okay, Sarah? You look pale," Mary said. "Just errands," Sarah said, forcing a smile. "I won't be long." Her first stop was Betty's Diner in the center of town. Betty had owned the diner for 40 years. She knew everyone's story. Sarah slid into a booth and ordered a coffee. "How's that little boy of yours?" Betty asked, filling her cup. "And that horse I heard about?" "They're good, Betty. They're really good together." Sarah took a deep breath. "Actually, I wanted to ask you about something. About my sister, Lily." Betty's friendly face softened. "Oh, honey, I still think about her. A light, that one. Do you remember? Did Lily have a favorite place? Maybe a field or something?" Betty leaned a hip against the table. "Sure do. She loved it out at the old Johnson place before they sold it. There was a big slope behind the main pasture that would fill with lupines every spring. Turned the whole world blue, she used to say. She'd spend hours out there, sometimes with that little black colt they had." Sarah's hand tightened around her coffee cup. "A black colt?" "Yeah, a feisty little thing. But not with Lily. He followed her around like a puppy. She named him something. Something about the night." "Midnight?" Sarah whispered. Betty snapped her fingers. "That's it. Midnight. Pretty thing. Whatever happened to that horse?" "I think I have him," Sarah said, her voice thin. Betty's eyes went wide. "Get out. That's a twist. Well, if that's true, then that horse loved your sister something fierce. He was never the same after." Sarah's heart was beating fast. "After what, Betty?" "After the accident, sweetie, out in that very field." Sarah paid for her coffee and drove. Her hands were sweaty on the wheel. She drove out of town, past fields and fences until she saw the mailbox. Johnson. It was a different family now, but the old farmhouse from Lily's time was still there, a little ways back from the road. An older woman was watering flowers on the porch. Sarah pulled over and got out. "Hello, ma'am." The woman turned off the hose. "Can I help you?" "My name is Sarah Miller. My sister, Lily Miller, used to come here years ago. She was friends with the Johnsons." The woman's face changed. She looked sad. "Oh, I remember Lily. I'm Clara Johnson. My husband and I sold up and moved to Arizona for 10 years. We just moved back here last year to this smaller place. We couldn't bear the main house after everything." Sarah walked to the porch steps. "I'm trying to understand some things. For my nephew, Lily's boy." "Mrs. Johnson nodded slowly. "Come sit." They sat on the porch swing. The air was quiet. "She loved it here," Mrs. Johnson began. "She was like a daughter to me. She and that colt, they had a bond you don't see often. He was her shadow." "Midnight," Sarah said. "Yes, that was her name for him." Mrs. Johnson looked out toward the distant fields. "The day it happened, it was 15 years ago this spring. The lupines were just starting to bloom. Lily was out in the field just walking, enjoying the sun. Midnight was in the adjacent pasture. Something spooked him. A loose wire snapping, we think. He bolted. Lily, trying to calm him, climbed through the fence. She slipped. Mrs. Johnson's voice got thick. It was a bad fall. She was gone before the ambulance could even get here. Tears streamed down Sarah's face silently. She had heard the clinical version before. This was different. This was the place. "And the horse?" Sarah asked. "He saw the whole thing," Mrs. Johnson said, wiping her own eyes. "He stood at that fence line and he screamed, a sound I never want to hear again. He was never right after that. Wouldn't let anyone near him. He was all anger and fear. We had to sell him. It broke our hearts, but we couldn't keep him. It was like he blamed himself." The pieces slammed together in Sarah's mind. The angry, broken horse at the auction. The sudden calm when Jake whispered to him. The song. The drawings of the blue flowers. He remembered her, Sarah said, more to herself than to Mrs. Johnson. "What's that, dear?" Sarah looked at the old woman. I think a piece of her never left that horse. I think he loved her so much it stayed with him. And now he's found her son." Mrs. Johnson reached over and took Sarah's hand. She didn't say it was impossible. She just held her hand tight. Love doesn't always follow the rules, does it? Sarah drove home in a daze. The facts were clear now. The story was complete. Midnight had known Lily. He had loved her. He had lost her. And now he was here, recognizing Lily in Jake's touch, in his song, in his spirit. It was not scary anymore. It was sad and beautiful and enormous. She picked up Jake from Mary's. He ran to her, chattering about the toys he played with. She hugged him tightly. When they got back to the ranch, Jake ran straight for the barn. "Midnight, I'm home." Sarah followed more slowly. She stood in the doorway of the barn. Jake was already in the stall, his arms around the horse's front leg, telling him about his day. Midnight lowered his head and breathed in the scent of the boy's hair. His eyes were soft. He looked at Sarah over Jake's head. For the first time, Sarah didn't see just a horse. She saw a living memory, a guardian, a promise made long ago in a field of blue flowers, a promise that had waited 15 years to be kept. She knew what she had to do next. She had to tell Jake the story, the whole story. Sarah did not tell him right away. She let the truth sit inside her for 2 days. She watched Jake and Midnight even closer. She saw the way the horse would sometimes just stand, nose pressed to Jake's chest, breathing him in. She saw the way Jake would rest his cheek against Midnight's neck when he was tired. It was not strange anymore. It was a fact, a beautiful, heartbreaking fact. On Sunday afternoon, the weather was warm. Sarah made lemonade and called Jake to sit with her on the porch steps. Midnight was grazing in the nearby paddock, close enough to watch. "Jakey, I want to tell you a story," Sarah said. "Is it a tractor story?" he asked, sipping his drink. "No, it's a mommy story, and a Midnight story." Jake's blue eyes got very serious. He looked from Sarah to the black horse and back again. "A long time ago," Sarah began, "your mommy, Lily, was a young woman. She loved horses more than anything, and there was a farm where she found a brand new baby horse, a little black colt." Jake pointed a finger toward the paddock. "Like him. Exactly like him. That little black colt asterisk was asterisk him. That was Midnight." Jake's mouth formed a small O of surprise. He looked at Midnight with new wonder. "Your mommy named him Midnight. She loved him very much. They were best friends. They went on walks. She sang songs to him. They had a special place they loved, a whole field of blue flowers." "My drawing," Jake whispered. "Yes, honey, your drawing. That was their place. They were so happy there." Sarah took a shaky breath. "But then, there was a sad day. Your mommy had to go away. She died, Jake. And Midnight was there. He saw it happen. He was so sad. His heart broke. He did not understand. He missed your mommy so much it made him angry and scared. He got lost for a long time." Jake's lower lip trembled. He looked at Midnight, who had lifted his head and was watching them. "But love is a very strong thing," Sarah said, her voice firm and soft. "A piece of your mommy's love stayed right here." She touched her own chest. "And I think a piece of it stayed with Midnight too, in his heart. He never forgot her. He carried her love all those years, and then one day, he saw you." Sarah put her arm around Jake. "He saw your mommy in you, Jake, in your eyes, in your song. That's why he knew you at the auction." That's why he is so calm with you. He is not just your friend. He is a gift from your mommy. She loved him and he loved her, and now he is here to love you. It was her promise, to make sure you had a friend to watch over you. Jake was quiet for a long time. He looked down at his hands, then at Midnight. The horse took a few steps closer to the fence, waiting. Mommy sent him? Jake asked finally. Yes. In a way, she did. She sent her love back to you in the only way it could get here. Inside our big black horse. Jake stood up. He walked down the steps and over to the paddock fence. Midnight met him there. Jake did not say anything. He put both his small hands on either side of the horse's face and pressed his forehead against Midnight's broad brow. He closed his eyes. Sarah watched, tears in her own eyes. She saw Midnight close his eyes too. They stood like that for a full minute, boy and horse, connected in the quiet sunlight. Jake pulled back. He was not crying. He looked peaceful. I like Mommy's promise, he said. The next morning, Sarah went into town. She came back with a small box of seeds. She showed the picture on the box to Jake. Lupines, she said, blue ones. Together they walked to a sunny, flat spot near the pasture. Sarah turned over the dirt with a shovel. Jake helped pat it down. They sprinkled the tiny seeds together. This will be our field of blue flowers, Sarah said, for Mommy, so she can see it from heaven, and so you and Midnight have your own special place here. When they were done, Jake ran to get Midnight. He led the horse by his halter to the freshly planted patch. This is for you and Mommy, Jake told him. Midnight sniffed the dark soil. He let out a deep, long sigh. It was a sound of release. He stood there, his head low, as if remembering, or perhaps finally coming home. Later, Sarah watched from the porch as Jake sat in the grass of the new planting area. Midnight lay down on the ground beside him, his big body curved around the little boy. Jake leaned back against the horse's side, looking up at the clouds, humming that familiar, sweet melody. Sarah felt a weight lift from her shoulders. The confusion was gone. The fear of the unknown was gone. It was replaced by a quiet certainty. She was not just raising her sister's son. She was caring for a living piece of her sister's heart. They were a family. Her, Jake, and the memory of Lily, made real in a majestic black horse. For the first time in a very long time, Sarah Miller felt hope instead of just duty. She felt like they were all right where they were supposed to be. The blue flowers began as tiny green shoots, then grew taller every day. Sarah, Jake, and Midnight visited the patch each morning. It was their quiet ritual. One afternoon, Sarah was in the barn fixing a harness. Jake was in the small corral next to the barn. He was not really riding. He was sitting on Midnight's bare back, holding onto the horse's mane. Midnight walked in slow, careful circles, his movements smooth as water. "You're a natural, Jake," Sarah called out, smiling. A loud, unfamiliar voice boomed from the driveway. "Well, isn't that a picture?" Sarah turned. A big, shiny truck was parked near the house. A man in a clean cowboy hat and a crisp shirt stood by the fence. He had a wide smile that did not reach his eyes. Two other men leaned against the truck. Sarah walked over, wiping her hands on her jeans. "Can I help you?" "Robert Hendricks," the man said, not offering his hand. He jerked his thumb toward the corral. "But folks call me Big Bob. I was just passing by and saw your animal there. That's a fine-looking quarter horse." "Thank you," Sarah said, her voice cautious. She moved to stand between the man and the corral. "I remember that horse," Big Bob said, his eyes fixed on Midnight. "Mean as a snake. Saw him at the auction over in Billings last year. Tried to take a chunk out of a fella. Now look at him. Gentle as a lamb with that kid." "He just needed the right home," Sarah said. "Seems so," Big Bob nodded slowly. "Seems you worked a miracle. That kind of turnaround, that adds value, a lot of value." Sarah crossed her arms. "He's not for sale," Big Bob laughed, a loud, hollow sound. "Everything's for sale, little lady. It's just a matter of the number. I'm prepared to make you a very generous offer. You could do a lot for this place with that money." Inside the corral, Midnight had stopped walking. He turned his whole body to face the fence, putting himself between Jake and the voices. His ears were pinned flat back. "I said he's not for sale," Sarah repeated, her tone sharper. "He's family." Big Bob's fake smile faded. "Sentiment is a poor business model. That horse has champion bloodlines. Wasted here on a hobby farm. He said the last two words like they were dirt. Our ranch is just fine, and Midnight is exactly where he belongs, with my son. Your son? Big Bob's eyes flicked to Jake, then back to Sarah. He lowered his voice. Look, I'm trying to be civil. I've got buyers lined up for a horse with that demeanor and pedigree. I'm willing to give you $5,000. Cash, today. Sarah felt a hot spike of anger. The answer is no. Not for $5,000. Not for $50,000. Now I have work to do. She turned her back on him and walked toward the corral gate. Jake, time to come in. Big Bob's voice followed her, cold and clear. You know, I bought a lot of stock from the Johnson spread when they liquidated years back. I believe there were some papers on that black colt. I'd have to check my files, but ownership can be a fuzzy thing. Would be a shame if there was a dispute. Lawyers are expensive. Sarah froze, her hand on the gate latch. She looked back at him. Are you threatening me? I'm stating facts, Big Bob said, spreading his hands wide. I'm a reasonable man. My offer stands for 1 week. Then the facts might just start arguing for me. He tipped his hat. You have a good day now. He and his men got back into the truck. It kicked up dust as it rolled back down the long driveway. Sarah's hands were shaking. She opened the gate and helped Jake slide down from Midnight's back. The horse was tense, his muscles tight under his skin. He nudged Jake firmly toward Sarah with his head, a clear motion to move the boy along. Who was that man, Aunt Sarah? Jake asked, holding her hand tightly. A bad man, honey. A man who only sees things he can take. He wants Midnight? Yes, but he can't have him. She looked at the horse. Midnight was watching the empty driveway, his head high, his nostrils flared. He looked like the angry horse from the auction again, but this anger was different. It was focused. It was protective. That evening, Sarah locked the main gate to the driveway for the first time in years. It was a flimsy chain, but it felt like doing something. She checked on Jake, who was asleep, then went to the barn. Midnight was not lying down. He was standing, alert, facing the direction of the road. You know, don't you? Sarah said, leaning on the stall door. You know that kind of man. Midnight turned his head to look at her. In the dim barn light, his eyes were solemn. I won't let him take you, Sarah promised, her voice fierce. You're ours. You're Jake's. You're Lily's. The horse took a step forward and rested his heavy head against her shoulder for a moment. It was a gesture of trust. Then he went back to watching the night. Sarah walked back to the quiet house. The piece of the blue flowers was gone, replaced by a cold dread. Big Bob was not a man who heard the word no. He was a man who made his own rules, and he had seen what he wanted. The chain on the gate felt useless. Sarah checked it 3 times the next morning. She walked the fence line along the road, her eyes scanning for any trouble. Everything looked normal, too normal. 2 days passed. The dread was a stone in her stomach. She kept Jake close to the house. She did her chores quickly, always looking over her shoulder. Midnight felt it too. He would not let Jake out of his sight. If Jake was in the house, the horse stood at the fence closest to the back door. His head was always up, watching, listening. On the 3rd morning, Sarah went out early to feed the chickens. The sun was just coming up. She walked toward the south pasture to check the water trough. Then she stopped. A long section of the wooden fence was down. Not just broken, it was smashed. The posts were snapped. The wires were cut and tangled. It was not weather. It was done by hands. Strong, angry hands. Sarah ran to the other fence lines. The east fence was cut in 2 places. The gate to the main pasture was hanging by one hinge, twisted. Her breath came fast. This was the work of more than one man. This was a message. She heard the back door open. Jake stood on the step in his pajamas. Midnight was right beside him, his body blocking the boy from stepping further outside. Aunt Sarah, what's wrong? She forced herself to be calm. She walked back to the house. Some fences broke in the night. I need to fix them. Did the bad man break them? Jake asked, his voice small. Sarah knelt in front of him. I think so, honey. So you need to do something very important for me. You need to stay right here by the house. No going into the pastures alone. You stay where I can see you or where Midnight can see you. Okay? Jake nodded, his eyes wide. He wrapped one arm around Midnight's front leg. He's scared. His heart is beating fast. I know, Sarah said. She looked at the horse. You keep him safe. I'll fix this. She spent all morning and afternoon with her toolbox, her hands raw from pulling wire and hammering nails. The damage was bad. It was meant to be. As she worked, she kept one eye on the sky. Big dark clouds were gathering over the mountains to the west. The air felt heavy and still. Mary from town called in the afternoon. Sarah just heard on the scanner. Big storm rolling in tonight. They're saying high winds, lots of lightning. You batten down the hatches. Thanks, Mary, Sarah said, her mouth dry. She knew now. A storm was the perfect cover. No one would see headlights on her road. No one would hear a truck over the thunder. She finished the last fence repair as the first cold wind kicked up. It whipped her hair around her face. She hurried back to the house. Jake was at the kitchen table, drawing. Midnight was in the barn, but she had left the stall door open so he could come and go to the small, secure paddock by the house. Jake, listen to me. A big storm is coming, a very loud storm. You might get scared. I don't like the boom, he whispered, remembering thunder from before. I know, but we'll be safe in the house. And Midnight is safe in his barn. The most important thing is that you stay inside, no matter what you hear. You promise me? I promise, Jake said. But Sarah saw his eyes drift to the window toward the barn. He was not promising for himself. He was promising for her. His worry was for his friend. The wind grew stronger. It whistled through the cracks in the porch. The sky turned a sickly greenish gray. Sarah made dinner, but neither of them ate much. The first rumble of thunder rolled in the distance, long and low. Asterisk boom. Asterisk Jake jumped. Sarah pulled him onto her lap. It's just noise, honey. It can't hurt you in here. Asterisk boom. Crack. A closer strike of lightning. The lights flickered. Then, over the sound of the rising wind, Sarah heard another sound. The crunch of tires on gravel. Heavy tires. More than one set. Her blood went cold. She looked at the clock. It was only 7 in the evening, but the sky was as dark as midnight. The headlights shone through the front window, lighting up the living room. 2 trucks. One of them was big and shiny. Big Bob was not waiting for his week to end. He had come with the storm. The headlights cut through the rainy dark, lighting up the living room. Car doors slammed. Sarah saw Big Bob Hendricks step out of his truck, his hat pulled low against the wind. 2 other men got out with him. Jake, Sarah said, her voice tight. Go to your room, right now. Close the door. But Midnight, now Jake, go! He scrambled off her lap and ran down the hall. Sarah stood up, her heart pounding. She grabbed her heavy coat and walked out onto the porch, closing the front door firmly behind her. The wind tried to tear it from her hands. Rain blew sideways, stinging her face. Big Bob and his men walked up to the porch steps. Evening, Sarah, Big Bob shouted over the storm. Come to collect my horse. He is not your horse, Sarah yelled back. Get off my property. Big Bob shook his head, a false look of pity on his face. I warned you. Now we do this the hard way. The papers are in order. Men, get the horse. The 2 men started toward the barn. Sarah jumped off the porch and ran in front of them, spreading her arms wide. You are not taking him. Lightning flashed, turning everything white for a second. In that instant, Sarah saw Midnight. He was not in the barn. He was standing in the open paddock next to it, the rain plastering his black coat to his body. He was facing the men, his head high, his feet planted. One of the men hesitated. Boss, he looks ready to fight. He's just a horse, Big Bob snarled. Go get a rope on him. Sarah turned to run toward Midnight to stand with him, but Big Bob grabbed her arm. His grip was hard. Let me go, she screamed, struggling. Inside the house, Jake pressed his face to his bedroom window. He saw the men walking toward his friend. He saw Aunt Sarah being held. The thunder boomed again, but he was not scared of the noise anymore. He was scared for Midnight. He ran from his room. He did not think about his promise. He ran to the back door, yanked it open, and sprinted into the storm. The cold rain soaked him in seconds. Midnight, he cried, his small voice lost in the wind. The horse heard him. Midnight's head snapped toward the house. He saw the little boy running across the slippery grass. He made a sound, a sharp, worried neigh, and took a step toward him. The kid's out here, one of the men yelled. Forget the kid, get the horse, Big Bob ordered, still holding Sarah. Sarah saw Jake. Jake, no, go back. But Jake kept running. his little legs churning through the mud. All he wanted was to get to his horse. Midnight moved to meet him, his focus entirely on the boy. He did not see the weakened fence post next to the paddock gate. Big Bob's men had cut it nearly through 2 nights before. The howling wind pushed and pulled at the damaged wood. As Midnight took another step, a powerful gust slammed into the fence line. There was a loud asterisk crack asterisk, not thunder, wood breaking. Sarah's eyes tracked the sound. The heavy fence post, taller than a man and thick as a telephone pole, splintered at its base. It began to fall. It was not falling away from the pasture. It was twisting, falling inward, right toward the path between Jake and the horse. Time did not slow down. It became very clear, very sharp. She saw the post tipping. She saw Jake still running, looking up at Midnight. She saw Midnight see the post. The horse's eyes went wide. He did not run away from the falling danger. He ran straight toward it, straight toward Jake. "Jake!" Sarah screamed, a raw sound torn from her throat. Midnight reached the boy. He did not stop. He lowered his massive head and shoved Jake hard with his nose. He pushed the little boy sideways off his feet, sending him sliding through the wet grass away from the post's path. The horse had no time to get out of the way himself. The heavy, splintered post landed with a terrible, dull thud across Midnight's side. The sound was awful, a heavy, final sound. Midnight did not make a noise. His legs buckled. He fell into the mud beside the broken post. For a second, no one moved. The only sounds were the wind and the rain. Then Jake screamed, "Midnight!" The little boy scrambled to his feet. He slipped in the mud but got up again. He ran to the fallen horse. Sarah finally broke free from Big Bob's stunned grip. She ran too. Jake dropped to his knees in the mud. He put his hands on Midnight's head. The horse's eyes were closed. His side was under the thick wood. "Midnight, wake up! Please wake up!" Jake cried. His tears mixed with the rain on his face. Sarah skidded to a stop beside them. She tried to see if the horse was breathing. Oh no, oh no, no, no. Big Bob and his 2 men walked over slowly. They stood in a half circle looking down. One of the men took off his hat. He pushed the kid out of the way, the man said, his voice quiet. "Shut up," Big Bob muttered, but he was staring, his face pale. Sarah tried to lift the post, but it was too heavy. "Help me," she screamed at the men. "Get this off him." The 2 men looked at Big Bob. He didn't say yes or no. He just stared. Jake leaned close to Midnight's ear. His small body was shaking. He whispered through his sobs, the same words from the auction. The secret words. "You smell like the warm wind. Don't be sad. I'm here." He said it again and again. "Don't be sad. I'm here." Sarah stopped trying to lift the post. She put a hand on Jake's back. She watched the horse's face. Nothing happened. The rain poured down on them. It washed the mud from Midnight's black coat. Then one of Midnight's ears twitched. Jake felt it. He stopped whispering. "Midnight?" The horse's eyelid fluttered. He let out a low, pained groan. His front leg moved, scraping through the mud. "He's alive!" Sarah gasped. "Help me now!" This time her voice was a command. The 2 men didn't wait for Big Bob. They stepped forward. Together with Sarah, they dug their hands under the wet wood. "On 3, one yelled. 1, 2, 3. They lifted. The post was incredibly heavy. They moved it just enough, rolling it off the horse's side and into the grass. Midnight lay still. His breathing was shallow and quick. "Come on, boy," Sarah pleaded. "Come on." Jake put his forehead against the horse's cheek. "Please get up, please." Slowly, with a great effort, Midnight opened his eyes. He looked at Jake. He took a deeper breath. His legs stirred again. He tried to tuck his front legs under his body. "He's trying to stand," one of the men said, almost in awe. It was a struggle. The horse's body shuddered with pain. He slipped in the mud, but he did not stop trying. He pushed, his muscles straining. With a final great heave, he got his back legs under him. He rose. He stood on shaky legs, swaying. Immediately, he took a step. He placed his large body between Jake and the men. He lowered his head, not in weakness but in a protective stance over the boy. He was hurt. He was in pain, but he was standing guard. Jake stood up and wrapped his arms around the horse's leg, burying his face in the wet coat. The rain began to lessen. The wind calmed. Big Bob Hendricks looked at the scene. He looked at the trembling, wounded horse who had just gotten up to protect the child. He looked at the boy who loved him. He looked at Sarah's face, fierce with tears and pride. He saw it now. This was not a prize animal. This was not property. This was love. A love so strong it made a broken horse whole. A love so strong it made a horse get up after a terrible blow. A love he had never understood in all his life. His shoulders slumped. The greedy light left his eyes. He just looked tired and old. "Let's go," he said to his men, his voice hollow. "Boss, the horse," one started. "Leave it," Big Bob said. He turned and walked back to his truck without another word. He did not look back. The red taillights of Big Bob's truck disappeared into the dripping dark. The rain softened to a gentle patter, then stopped. A strange, quiet peace settled over the ranch. Sarah's first move was toward Midnight. "Easy, boy. Let me look at you." The horse stood still as she gently ran her hands along his side and legs. There would be a massive bruise, maybe a cracked rib, but nothing seemed broken. His breathing was steadying. "He's okay, Jake. He's really okay," Sarah said, her own tears starting to fall now that the danger was past. Jake just held onto Midnight's leg, his little body trembling from cold and shock. Sarah picked him up. He was light in her arms, already half asleep from exhaustion. "Let's get you dry, sweetheart." She carried Jake inside, peeled off his wet clothes, and wrapped him in a thick blanket. She sat with him in the big living room chair until his shivering stopped. Through the window she could see Midnight standing patiently in the yard, a dark silhouette against the clearing sky. "Will he sleep in the barn?" Jake mumbled. "Tonight he can sleep right outside your window if he wants to," Sarah said. "But first, we need to take care of him." Together they went back outside. Sarah brought a stack of old towels. She dried Midnight's coat as best she could, rubbing warmth back into his skin. Jake helped, using a small towel on the horse's nose and face. "You saved me," Jake whispered to him. Midnight nudged the boy's hand softly. When they were done, Sarah spread a thick layer of fresh, dry straw in a sheltered corner of the barn, leaving the door wide open. Midnight walked in and laid down with a grateful sigh. He was home. The next morning the world was washed clean. The sun rose in a clear pink sky. Sarah made pancakes and Jake ate 2 whole plates. After breakfast, they went to the barn. Midnight was already standing. He walked out to meet them, his step careful but strong. He leaned down to Jake and the boy put his arms around the horse's neck. "We have a project today," Sarah said. She went to the shed and came back with the box of lupine seeds and a small trowel. They went to the special patch of earth they had prepared weeks before. The tiny green shoots from the first planting were already a few inches tall. Sarah dug a new small hole a little ways away from them. "This one is for last night," she said. "This one is for Midnight's brave heart." Jake carefully dropped a few seeds into the hole. He covered them up and patted the dirt. "So they can grow strong like you," he told the horse. Midnight watched, then lowered his head and sniffed the freshly turned earth. He blew out a soft, warm breath. Sarah put her arm around Jake. She looked at the horse, then up at the wide Montana sky. "She sees this, you know," she said, not sure who she was talking to, Jake, Midnight, or herself. "Your mom. She sees all of it, and she's happy." Jake looked up at her, his blue eyes clear. "I know. She's in the warm wind." Sarah's breath caught. She pulled him close. "Yes, baby, she is." As the days turned into weeks, Midnight's bruise faded. The blue flowers grew taller, forming buds. One afternoon, Sarah was fixing the last of the broken fences. She looked up and saw Jake walking through the pasture. Midnight walked beside him, his head level with the boy's shoulder. Jake was talking, and the horse's ears were swiveled toward him, listening. They reached the edge of the field where the first blue flowers were just beginning to open. Jake lay down on his stomach in the grass to look at them. Midnight lowered himself too, lying down beside the boy with a contented grunt. They stayed there, resting together in the sun. Sarah put down her hammer. She didn't feel tired anymore. She didn't feel alone. She felt a deep, quiet joy. The ranch was saved. Her boy was safe and happy, and they were watched over by a love that had traveled a long, hard road to find them. She walked over and sat down in the grass near them. Jake turned his head and smiled at her. Midnight's tail swished peacefully. It wasn't the family she had expected. It was the family they were meant to be, a woman, a boy, and a horse who carried a mother's promise in his heart. The love had not died. It had just been waiting. Now it was home.